The Man I Could Not Recognize, written by Daintyjha, for DigiCafé, DaintyStories. Date, written, 26th, 2026. Chapter 4, The Sound of His Voice. Ronan Hale did not believe in coincidence. Coincidence was a word people used when they did not want to admit that choices had consequences. His father had taught him that without ever saying it directly. Every dinner invitation had a purpose. Every smile hid a calculation. Every hand extended toward the Hale family expected something in return. So when Ronan found himself walking toward the staff wing of Aurelia Grand Copenhagen the next morning, he told himself it was not because of Elara Vale. It was because of the audit. Because she had requested access to staff interviews. Because the guest experience redesign mattered. Because if Aurelia was going to survive the next decade without becoming another polished monument to empty luxury, someone had to make sure the consultants did not waste time asking polite questions and receiving polished lies. It had nothing to do with the way she had said his name, Ronan, not with awe. Not with hunger, not with fear, just as if his name belonged to a man and not an empire. He disliked how much he remembered it. This half lounge was on the second floor, tucked behind administrative offices and a narrow hallway that smelled faintly of coffee and linen detergent. It was not meant for guests. There were no marble floors here, no gold fixtures, no curated floral arrangements. Just chairs, lockers, a vending machine that hummed too loudly, a notice board covered with schedules, safety reminders, and staff announcements. Ronan paused outside the half-open door. Inside, Elara was speaking. He recognized her voice immediately, which irritated him. It was calm, low, and precise, but not cold. She had a way of leaving space after a question, as if silence was not something to fill but something to study. How often do guests ask for something outside official service guidelines? She asked. A younger woman answered hesitantly. Every day. And how often do you feel free to respond based on judgment, rather than procedure? Silence. Ronan leaned slightly closer to the doorway. The woman gave a small laugh, but there was no humor in it. That depends who is watching. Elara did not rush to answer. Good, Ronan thought. Most consultants ruin truth by reacting too quickly. When management is watching, Elara asked, we follow the script. Even when the script is wrong? Another silence. Then, quieter, especially then, Ronan's jaw tightened. He knew fear lived inside the company. He had seen it in the way junior managers stopped speaking when executives entered the room. He had heard it in the careful emails, the empty praise, the endless approvals required before anyone dared to solve a simple problem. But knowing something existed was different from hearing someone confess it when they thought power was not standing nearby. Elara asked, what would you change if you were allowed? The young woman inhaled shockily. Then she began to speak. Ronan stayed outside the door. For 15 minutes, he did not move. He listened as a housekeeper described a guest who cried silently every morning, refused breakfast, and how she had wanted to leave tea by the door, but had been told not to interfere. He listened as a concierge explained that staff were trained to remember preferences, but not emotions. He listened as a server admitted that employees often competed to avoid difficult guests because one complaint could damage their monthly evaluation. Then Elara said something that made him still. Luxury should not make staff afraid to be human. The words entered him with uncomfortable precision. His mother would have liked that sentence. He hated that he thought of her. Celeste Hale had once said something similar, years ago, before she vanished from the family's public life. Ronan had been 15, angry, and determined not to need her. They had been in one of the family's resorts in Lake Como. A maid had dropped a tray in the corridor, and Victor had looked at the mess with quiet disgust. No shouting. Victor never shouted. Shouting was for people without control. Instead, he had said, replace her. His mother had waited until they were alone before turning on him. She dropped a tray. Victor, not your legacy. Victor had not even looked up from his cufflinks. She embarrassed the brand. She is a person. Then she should have acted like one with a job to keep. Ronan remembered his mother's face that day. Not the details. The feeling. Fury wrapped in elegance. Later, she had found the maid and apologized herself. Victor called it weakness. Ronan had watched from a distance and decided, wrongly, that kindness made people vulnerable. Now, years later, Elara Vale sat in his hotel, telling his staff that humanity was not a flaw in service. Ronan stepped back from the door before he did something foolish, like enter the room. He turned down the corridor. Clara appeared at the end of it with 2 coffees in her hands and suspicion on her face. You are lurking, she said. I am observing. Outside a staff lounge? Yes. Silently. It improves the quality of observation. She handed him 1 coffee. It worsens the quality of your personality. He took the cup. That assumes there was quality to begin with. Clara studied him. He disliked when she did that. What? He asked. You are interested in her? Ronan looked toward the windows. She is useful. That is not what I said. It is what I answered. She is not like the others. No, he said, before he could stop himself. Clara's expression softened. That was worse than suspicion. Ronan turned away. Do not make this into something. I am not the one standing outside staff interviews like a ghost in an expensive suit. I came to check the audit. Of course. I did. Of course. He looked at her. She smiled. Ronan hated loyal people when they were correct. The lounge door opened behind them. Elara stepped out with her folder pressed to her chest and her phone in one hand. She stopped when she heard voices. Ronan watched her attention shift, not to faces, to sound, to space, to the distance between bodies. Her gaze moved past Clara, paused near him, then settled around his shoulder. Mr. Hale, she said. Miss Vale. Clara glanced between them. Elara, she said warmly. I'm Clara Voss, Mr. Hale's assistant. Elara turned slightly toward the direction of Clara's voice. Nice to meet you. We technically met yesterday, Clara said gently. Flicker crossed Elara's expression. Not shame. Irritation. At herself, perhaps. Clara seemed to notice because she quickly added, only briefly, near the service entrance. Elara nodded. Then nice to properly meet you. Ronan watched the exchange without speaking. He had seen people mishandle Elara's condition already. Some over-explained. Some became overly kind. Some acted as if they had caught her doing something impolite by not recognizing them. Clara, at least, recovered well. Elara's shoulders relaxed by a fraction. How are the interviews going? Clara asked. Honestly, preferably. Your staff are exhausted, Clara sighed. That tracks. Ronan asked. And frightened? Elara turned toward him. You were listening. It was not a question. Yes. Her mouth tightened. That was a confidential staff interview. I did not enter. That is not the point. I own the company, and they own their fear. Clara looked down her coffee as if suddenly fascinated by it. Ronan stared at Elara. No one spoke to him like that. No one. Except his father, and Victor's cruelty had always been dressed as authority. Elara's sharpness was different. It was not meant to humiliate. It was meant to draw a boundary. Ronan found, to his surprise, that he respected it. You are right, he said. Clara's head lifted. Elara blinked. The silence that followed was almost comical. Ronan looked from one woman to the other. Was that unclear? No, Elara said slowly. Just unexpected. I can admit I am wrong. Clara coughed. Ronan ignored her. Elara's mouth curved slightly, but she fought the smile. That must be useful during annual miracles. Clara turned away again, shoulders shaking. Ronan felt the edge of a laugh threaten him. He suppressed it, barely. I will not listen to another interview without consent, he said. Good. But I want your honest assessment when you finish. You may not like it. I rarely do. That does not surprise me. Her phone vibrated in her hand. Elara glanced down, and all the humor drained from her face. The change was small. Most people might have missed it. Ronan did not. Her fingers tightened around the phone. The folder bent slightly against her chest. Her breathing paused, then resumed with deliberate control. Excuse me, she said. She stepped away down the corridor before either of them could answer. Ronan watched her go. Clara watched him watching her. What? He said. Nothing. You always say nothing when you mean something. Fine. Something. He did not respond. Clara lowered her voice. That looked personal. Ronan looked toward the end of the corridor where Elara had disappeared. Yes, he said, and for reasons he had no right to understand, the thought disturbed him. Elara did not stop walking until she reached an empty service stairwell. Only then did she look at the message again. Unknown number, but the words did not need a name. I heard you are working with Aurelia now. Her stomach turned cold. Below it, another message appeared. I am glad you are doing well, Elara. No signature, no introduction, no apology. But she knew. Not by face, not by contact photo, not by anything visible. She knew because her body had gone back 2 years in an instant. Adrian. Her thumb hovered over the screen. For several seconds, she could hear nothing but her own heartbeat. Then memory opened its cruel little door. Knock, knock. His voice on the phone. You promise? His hand around hers in the hospital. I'm here. His back turned toward the kitchen window. I cannot do this anymore. Elara gripped the railing. No, not here. Not now. She had spent too long rebuilding herself to collapse over a message from a man who had left her only while she was easy to love. The phone vibrated again. Can we talk? Elara laughed once. It sounded ugly in the stairwell. Talk. Now he wanted to talk. Not when she was learning how to recognize her own parents by their voices. Not when she sat across from therapists trying to accept that her brain had been permanently changed. Not when every wedding plan became a reminder of the woman he had chosen to abandon. Now, when she was working at Aurelia. When her name had entered rooms with power again. Elara should have deleted the message, blocked the number, walked back into the corridor and continued her day. Instead, she stared at the words until they blurred. That was the humiliating thing about old love. Even when it became rotten, some part of the heart still remembered when it had been sweet. The stairwell door opened. Elara locked her phone immediately. Ronan stood there. Of course he did. The man had an infuriating talent for appearing when she least wanted to be seen. He did not step fully inside. That she noticed. He held the door open with one hand, leaving space between them. "Are you all right?" he asked. Yes. The answer came too fast. His silence told her he heard it. "I did not ask professionally," he said. "I answered professionally. I noticed." She looked away. Through the small window above the landing, Copenhagen sat gray and cold beneath the afternoon sky. The city looked peaceful from a distance. Most things did. "What do you need, Mr. Hale?" "Ronan." She closed her eyes briefly. "What do you need, Ronan?" The name changed the air again. She wished it did not. "I came to ask whether you wanted the next staff interviews moved to a private meeting room. The lounge has too much traffic." That was not why he had come. They both knew it. But Elara appreciated the lie because it gave her dignity. "Yes," she said. "That would help." He nodded. Then, after a pause, "Someone upset you." Her first instinct was to deny it. Her second was to make a joke. Her third, more dangerous than both, was to tell him the truth. She chose silence. Ronan did not push. That should have made him easier to dismiss. It made him harder. "Lara," he said, her name in his voice again. Soft this time. Not soft like pity, soft like restraint. She looked toward him. "I know what it is to have people return when they discover you are useful again," he said. The words struck too close. Her throat tightened. For a moment, she forgot he was Ronan Hale. The heir, the powerful man, the owner of the doorway and the hotel and possibly half the city's skyline. She heard only the man beneath the sentence. A man who knew exactly what use felt like when it dressed itself as affection. "How often does that happen to you?" she asked. His mouth was quiet before his voice was. "Often enough." There was an answer beneath the answer. Elara felt it. She should not have. She had no business collecting pieces of Ronan Hale. Her own pieces were still sharp enough to cut her. "It was my ex-fiancé," she said. The confession landed between them. Ronan went completely still. It was not dramatic, not visible enough for anyone else to understand. But Elara heard the silence inside him harden. "The one who left?" he asked. The question could have sounded invasive from anyone else. From him, it sounded like he already knew abandonment by its shape. "Yes. What does he want?" She looked down at her locked phone. "To talk." Ronan's voice cooled. "And what do you want?" No one had asked her that. Not after the accident. People asked what she needed, what she remembered, what she could manage, whether she was sure, whether she was safe. Not what she wanted. Elara held the railing tighter. "I want him to have stayed gone." The words were quiet, but they were the truest thing she had said all day. Ronan did not answer immediately. Then he said, "Then he should have." Such a simple sentence. No excuse for Adrian. No gentle reminder that people made mistakes. No suggestion that closure might be healthy. Just loyalty to the boundaries she had barely managed to name. It made something ache inside her. She looked up. "I do not need protection. I did not offer it. You looked like you wanted to. I often look like I want to destroy things. It does not mean I act on it." Despite herself, Elara laughed. It escaped before she could stop it. Small, surprised, real. Ronan's silence changed. She felt him notice. That made her stop. "I should get back," she said. "Yes." Neither moved. The stairwell was cold, but Elara felt too warm beneath her coat. Ronan stepped aside first, opening the door wider. She passed him, not close enough to touch, close enough to catch the faint scent of him. Cedarwood, clean fabric, something darker beneath it, like smoke after rain. She hated that her mind recorded it, instantly. Another detail, another way to know him. Dangerous. As they returned to the corridor, staff members straightened at the sight of him again. The world remembered who he was. Elara almost envied it. Recognition seemed so effortless for everyone else. They knew faces, names, positions. They saw Ronan Hale and understood the rules. Elara had to build recognition from fragments. Voice, watch, posture, scent, the way silence moved around him, the way he did not feel pain with easy comfort, the way he stood at a door and gave her room to leave. She wished those fragments meant less. At the entrance to the administrative wing, she stopped. "Ronan?" He turned immediately. That quickness was a mistake. Both of them seemed to know it. "Yes, thank you for not asking more." His expression was useless to her, but his voice, when he answered, was low and steady. "You will tell me what you want me to know." Trust. He had not used the word. That was why she heard it so clearly. Elara nodded once and walked away. Behind her, Ronan remained where he was. She knew because the corridor stayed quiet, because no one resumed speaking, because power had not moved yet, and because, though she could not recognize his face, she was beginning to recognize the exact shape of his attention. That should have frightened her. It did, but not enough. Not nearly enough.